Another common example of what I consider to be an egregious dismissal of scientific evidence is with respect to high-fat diets and weight loss. Between 2003 and 2018, there were 62 published randomised controlled trials comparing weight loss on high-fat and low-fat diets. And of these 62 studies, 31 had statistically significant results, while the other 31 had results which may have been due to chance. And so here, I have graphed the results of the 31 studies with statistically significant results, leaving out the studies whose findings could have been due to chance. The green bars represent the amount of weight loss on a high-fat diet, and the adjacent red bar, the amount of weight lost in a low-fat diet. And if you look at each pair of results, you'll see that those on higher-fat diets lost more weight in all of them. All of them. Not a single study found in favour of low-fat diets. And despite this overwhelming evidence, many doctors still promote low-fat diets for weight loss. This is a copy of the handout one of my patients received from another doctor, specifically recommending a low-fat diet. When doctors ignore science like this, it's no wonder we have an obesity epidemic. And some doctors can't even bring themselves to question their beliefs when they see patients heal themselves in front of them. Take this 71-year-old male patient of mine who, amongst other things, reversed diabetes, fixed his blood pressure, stopped 5 medications and put his inflammatory bowel disease into remission, all with dietary change. You'd think his original diabetes doctor, who was an endocrinologist, would be happy. Well, in this letter to me, his doctor acknowledged that the resolution of his diabetes was likely due to this new low-carb diet, but then proceeded to recommend he resume the exact type of diet he was on when he developed these multiple medical issues in the first place, despite the patient clearly telling his doctor that he had already tried this recommended diet. And for good measure, the doctor also recommended this diabetic patient take a statin, despite having had side effects to one previously. But there is now some light at the end of the tunnel. For example, the American College of Cardiology, once a bastion of anti-saturated fat recommendations and dogma, has now shifted its opinion. In this recent review paper, it is acknowledged that the weight of evidence does not support restricting saturated fat. Indeed, it is explicitly recommended that dairy, meat and eggs be freely consumed. And to understand the significance of this shift, you need to realise that 3 of the authors of this article were on the committee that produced the 2005 Dietary Guidelines for Americans, and that includes the chair of the committee. All we need now is for our guidelines and medical education to catch up, or at the very least for doctors to begin to independently appraise the literature for themselves. Now, for health professionals who do understand the science but are afraid of recommending against the dietary guidelines, you should know something. On page 2 of the Australian guidelines, it is explicitly stated that the guidelines only apply to those who are healthy, not to those with medical conditions which require specialised dietary advice. And I'm yet to meet a medical condition that could not be impacted by dietary advice. In effect, if you're providing nutritional advice to manage diabetes or obesity, the dietary guidelines need not apply.